winter trees. Hey, I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. So right here, we're in winter. So apologies to folks currently in the Southern Hemisphere, but winter will come again. And also some trees are even summer deciduous if they're in really hot areas. So let's take a look at drawing some cool gnarly trees with their leaves off and how you can do that without going crazy. And I think what I'll probably do is we're going to focus here on trees that are deciduous. So that is trees that drop their leaves. We're going to look at techniques with both pencil or pen and also with watercolor and how you can do that. And some of you have seen some of these tricks before. And but I think there may be some new ones in here for you. But this is just a wonderful time to kind of get your tree on, because the skeleton of trees, the internal structure is just so apparent to us right now. And if you can get a sense of that in your tree, it's going to really make a big difference. So things that are going to kind of help your tree not just look like a tree, but look at like that tree. One is the overall shape of the tree. Let me bounce over to a share camera here. So let's see. Here we have. So if you look at the tree from a distance, we're gonna just start here with some just sort of straight up side views of kind of trees in isolation, and then we'll put some trees in environment. So some trees have their overall shape is spreading. So they're kind of the overall shape. You got to think of it like a low umbrella. Other trees, you look at their shape and they're more rounded, and other trees, you look at their shape and others can be more vertical, but you want to start just by looking at what is the arc of the shape of this tree relative to the ground. So you're taking into account the height of this tree and the spread of this. I think perhaps a good order of operations for doing this would be initially to kind of put in what is sort of the arch of whatever tree you're looking at. And then think about if you're that wide, that tall, how far away is the ground from that? Because if it's that arch and the ground is up here, that's going to be one shape of the tree. If it's down here, it's another. But I might put in that arch first, and then you can even take your pencil and kind of say to yourself, where is the ground from the top of that tree? Let's say that ours is here. The next thing I do is I want to take a look at sort of major architecture in the tree. So not drawing in every branch, but take a look at you probably don't think of sort of more than 5 sort of major branches in this. But notice where those major ones are going. So let's say I have sort of 3 major branches over on this side, and I've got maybe 2 over on this side. I'm noticing where those are relative to this sort of larger structure. And then those have to kind of lightly come together to make your tree. I'm doing all this lightly. I don't want a big bold line. I don't want this kind of hand looking thing too much kind of in my face originally. I'm more thinking of these as guidelines. these are going to be targets of where I'm going to be going. So I'm not going to get in here and kind of fill in, sort of start drawing branches and then start bringing those branches out towards this. I find when I kind of start from the major trunk and work out this way, my trees often look pretty funky. But I do want to note where some of my major trunk elements are. So I'm going to just bounce over here slightly. Let's say this is the arch of my tree. And sometimes it's not all one continuous arch. Sometimes maybe there's a secondary arch that is going on in it. Now, where's the bottom of my tree going to be? I'm looking out that tree out the window. And so I'm saying, I'm going to put it, well, roughly about here. So I know kind of where to stop my tree. I have a few kind of bigger elements in here. There's one that's on this tree that's coming over in this direction. Those just give me a few targets. I'm looking at what are the spaces between these, the general direction they are going. Because in addition to this arch, I want to think about how does this tree branch? Does it go into a few big things and then from those it sort of spalls off? Or is it something where you have one tree and then there's just sort of, you know, minor branches coming out from that? Or do you have branches that then are branching, right? So I'm trying to just lightly diagram that in. Now, I'm going to start to put in my, start to actually draw my tree. As I do that, I want to look at two things about the little branches. So I'm going to look back at that tree. And one thing I want to notice is what is the general direction of branches as they attach to each other. So I'm going to draw a little tree branch over here on the side. Let's say this is a major trunk element coming along here. Do my branches come in like this and insert into my tree that way? Or do they come down and then turn more horizontal? If you're a tree climber, you know, we know these are the sort of trees which we like to climb more. These ones that kind of give you a place to kind of sit here and eat your sandwich. Right? So how do these branches come in? It'd be hard to eat your sandwich in here. So is this a good eating your sandwich tree? Or are they coming in at a steeper angle? It's going to be different on different species of tree. So, and that also is going to give your tree a very different look. But if you've got everything kind of coming down at sort of steep angles, that's going to give your tree one look. Ones that kind of come in and then kind of connect into the tree a little bit more horizontally, that's going to be a whole other kind of category of tree look. So take a close look at the tree that you're sketching and sort of see, is it good for sandwiches or is it better for hiding Easter eggs? Now, let's take one of these trees and kind of draw it. I'm going to switch over. I've been drawing everything with my graphite pencil because I wanted to make bold lines that are easy to see. But when I'm making these drawings in my own journal, I'm often using a pencil like this one. This is a coal erase non-photo blue pencil. And I can draw in all these sort of starter lines with that and proceed from there. And then I draw over these lines and nobody sees them. The only disadvantage of using this pencil is that when I'm doing a demonstration here on Zoom, if we were live, you could see what I have here. But for some reason, this doesn't show up very well on my Zoom camera. So rather than doing my kind of introductory basic lines using this pencil, what I'm going to do is use a blue mechanical pencil that is a little bit more bold, so you can see what I'm doing. But if I were doing this on my own and not for your benefit, not as a demonstration, I would probably be doing that with this pencil, because this is going to show up a little bit too much for me. And my tree is roughly going to be about this high. Let's zoom down on that now that we know where we're going to be working. And we've got a few kind of major target branches in here and one here. Maybe. All right. So these are just things that I'm going to be, I want to think of these little lines in here, not as so much as the branch, but sort of a zone that has kind of a gravitational attraction. Let's take a look at doing this with branches that come in rather steeply and see how that looks. And then we'll compare that with branches that have more of a swoop to them. So what I do is I start drawing my tree from the outside edge here. And I'm going to just sort of be a little branch, and I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go gently towards one of these little indicator blue lines. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of coming down and I'm making little lines that kind of connect into each other. And those are then coming down and meeting at sort of along, sort of being attracted into the gravitational, the gravity well of these larger branches. So you see how I'm just sort of pulling things down, and they're generally coalescing around where I have some of those lines. Coming out here, this one is going to I'm sort of following a general principle of plumbing here, that if I have small pipes that come together and you want to drain those, I'm going to then create a bigger pipe on the end of that. And that if I have another bigger pipe coming in, that gets a bigger pipe going down. So as you go further down this tree, you're going to be progressively getting larger as you go in. Now there's a big branch that comes out this way. So I'm kind of coming down from that outer edge and pulling lines in there. Now, all this is a lot easier if you have a real tree in front of you, and you can kind of go like, you know, what direction? I'm going to put another sort of in this area, another little kind of arc of sort of a lower branch that's in here that is going to come down towards us here. In this area here on the sides, very often there'll be branches that, you know, if you're a branch in here and you're kind of growing up here, you want to get, I want to get up to the sunlight. I want to get up to the sunlight. But very often, if you're a branch and you're out here, you're going to kind of go out a little bit further away from this, because you want to kind of get some of this side light in here. So these ones are just not really following the general pattern. So often we'll find down kind of on the, by the hips of the tree in here, some other branches that are coming down in a way that is not really consistent with the general feeling of this tree. So you'll sometimes see in this area, a few little branches that are doing something just slightly different. So that's a good area to look, and it fills in those little hips. Now to put this tree on the ground, I'm going to give it a little bit of a shadow down here. And maybe it needs a cow. Or a horse. No, that's a cow. Or a walrus. Don't know what the walrus is doing there underneath the tree, but hey, I wanted to draw a walrus. All right. So the couple of tricks here is I have a few sort of zones in there where they're kind of where my lines are getting kind of magnetized to. I have the overall shape of the tree, and then I am kind of coming from the outer edge in rather from the base outwards. There's another thing you can do on these that's kind of fun if you're using graphite. And rustling sound as I look for art supplies. I'm not finding the art supplies that I need. Right, so I'm going to make myself kind of a little on-the-spot blending tool. I'm going to take a little piece of paper, and I am going to just sort of tightly roll it up. Oops. I'm going to try that again. I am going to try to tightly roll my little piece of paper here. You can buy little blending stomps in the store, but if you don't have one, you can sometimes just sort of quickly make your own. And so I'm getting tighter, 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 tighter. And I've just sort of made myself this little paper spear. And it's a little bit too sharp. There we go. And what I'm going to do with this is I am going to put a little bit of blending in the outer edges of this tree. Let's see. And there's another little zone in there. So places where there are little branches, I can just kind of give it a little bit of a swipe with the blender. And that will suggest those finest, smallest little branches that are out there. And that works pretty well. But let's say I wanted to do this with watercolor. I'm going to show you my two favorite watercolor brushes and show you how I can suggest some of these trees with watercolor. Actually, first let's do a little forest of these. And let me actually grab a book off the shelf here. I'm going to show you some quick trees that were done in this style. Right, so if you look at this little tree here, so here's this dead, or not dead, but winter black oak. You can see that I've got these sort of arcs of the edges of the tree, and I'm then coming down from that to construct that tree. If this tree is darker than the background, then I can just make this all nice and dark. But sometimes these branches and these trees, it's light colored wood. So in that case, out here, I have forest back here, and I have my tree. I am putting tone behind it, but just not so much into where that tree is. And that makes that then kind of pop out as a light colored tree that's losing its branches. If you look back here in the background, there's a few other places in here where there are some light colored trees. So what I've got back there is just essentially a little arch with a few little lines coming down from it in that area. But around and adjacent to that is a background. And let's say those are coniferous trees. And that tree then is light because the area around it is dark. Down here where the trunk comes in, I'm actually going to make that trunk a little bit darker down there, give it a little bit of a shadow out here. And there's a light colored tree against some dark background. But if I just have the tree out there on its own, it's going to feel like a dark tree because you've got those graphite lines on there. But the minute I get the stuff behind it that is really dark, then all of a sudden that pops out. It's like, oh, no, it's a light tree. So the contrast is going to determine whether you have a light tree against dark or a dark tree against light. See if there's a few other trees kind of done in the same approach. Here's ballpoint pen and watercolor. So you've got, oh, this is kind of neat. So here you see these upper branches. They're kind of coming in at angles like this. But then you've got some of these lower ones that are kind of going off, and I'm going to get some of this side light that's out here. It's an interesting thing to look for, and it kind of helps sort of tree out your tree. And notice again here, to make these light trees stand out, sometimes the trees have a little bit of a tint to them. So maybe red-brown branches. So I've just put red-brown here into the canopies of these black oaks. And then I'm taking just a little bit of dark mixture and popping that into the background here. And then those appear as light branches against a dark background. Let's see, are there any other examples of those? There's a couple more. Yep, there's Yosemite in April. Such an amazing place. Oh, here's a lot of trees. So it was a pretty complicated, complex background there. But so you see you've got a bunch of overlapping little trees, a number of these arcs. So I just first drew in those arcs, drew lines down from them, and was able to finish this little sketch of the Merced River fairly quickly. You kind of get a sense of, you realize that if you made these all really, really dark and then put in the dark trees, it would feel like a dark background. But here, when you kind of punch in some of those backgrounds with a little bit of dark, then you get light trees against a dark background. Notice the general difference in shapes. In these willows down here, versus this cottonwood sticking up. And let's see if there are any other quick trees. Nope, but that gives you kind of a sense for that. So there we saw kind of using ballpoint pen and this line drawing technique together. I can draw my trees and then put watercolor over it. You can always tint your drawings with watercolor. Let me give that a quick try here. And then I'll just show you drawing the tree straight with watercolor. All right, let's take a look here. Maybe this one here wants a little bit of light color in the foliage in the branches there, but the background stuff is going to be is dark, and then you get that light tree against a dark background. Let's give this a little bit of but what if you wanted to draw the tree entirely with with watercolor? You can do that too. I still would suggest giving yourself a few kind of starter lines. I'm going to have a tree that's roughly going to be in here. So here's the arch of its top. See, I'm doing that lightly. And it's going to be lines are going to gravitate towards here, here, and in here. And the ground will be somewhere in there. All right. I am going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do this sort of a couple of different ways. So one is I can take with my water brush, if I don't have too much water on the tip of it, I can actually draw lots of fine little lines. You can think of that just like a pencil. So, you know, there we go. So what I'm going to do is it's going to work better if I am pulling lines this way rather than pushing my brush up. When I push my brush up, I get some lines that are, sometimes the brush kind of flips out and it goes thick where I don't expect that. I don't want a big thick glob out there. So I'm in those outer branches, I'm going to be pulling these down instead of pushing them up to the edge. So I rest my hand on the side of my paper so I can control how much pressure I get out there. And I am just going to lightly come down, doing the same thing. Zoom on that just a little bit more. Whoop. And that one got a little bit thick. A couple of really thick ones. I'm going to actually give myself a second arch right in here, a lower arch, and have some of these branches only come out that far. Now, on where the smallest branches are out here, I'm going to get rid of a little bit of paint on my brush by wiping it on a rag. Test how much paint I have in there. And yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little bit of smudge in there. And then that is, those are my finest little branches. So what I'm doing is I'm painting across those. That makes the paint that is in those sections a little bit lighter. When you are trying to figure out what that zone is on the real tree in front of you, squint at the tree and sort of see where sort of there's that kind of ghost zone of little branches. And then you're just putting a wash through there. Another thing that I can do is look at the trunk itself. If it's really kind of sun-kissed, can be fairly pale. If, however, it is darker, so if the sun is perhaps coming from this direction, there'll be some parts of the trunk here that are going to be getting darker. Ooh, that's much darker than I thought it would go. That's too much of a jump. So can I get rid of some of that? I'm getting a little bit rid of some of the paint on my brush. Then I am going to try to there, and trees don't have as much of a shadow in the winter. So I'm just going to go up a few places in here, just give a little bit of a hint of more contrast. Not too much. There you go. Then I'm going to stop. What about using a different brush? So this is what's called a flat brush. And the flat brush can give you all sorts of interesting, sometimes chisel-like effects. And it also can give you some interesting, what we call kind of squirrel tail, scraggly marks. So I'm going to use this flat brush to then carve a tree. And I'm also going to draw that as a tree that's sort of more in the landscape. So let's say I have, I'm looking across a meadow. There's a nice sort of spreading tree. And it's not very tall. And then behind that is sort of a zone where there are more trees. And then there are distant trees in the background even further back. So these will be trees that will be a little bit closer. And then these will be very far away trees. And there's perhaps an overcast sky. The fields out here are also turning brown. Yeah, I'm going to use this brush. So one way I can handle this is I have to first figure out my values. I'm going to have my ground here be darker than my trees. And I'm actually going to give myself a fairly kind of dark gray brooding sky because I want perhaps a lightness in the branches of these trees to show up. Perhaps there's going to also be, these trees will have a little bit of a warm blush of a color to them. Here's how I'm going to play with that. I'm going to start just with the sky. And I am going to pick up, I've got some kind of gray here in my palette. Okay, get a little bit of water down to the tip of my brush. Test this off on the side here. That's a nice little gray. I want it slightly stronger. Maybe not that strong. So if it's too strong, I squeeze my brush slightly and I'm going to add a little bit of water to the palette. And then test that color off on the side again. That's better. Okay. So here is my sky. It is this sort of pale gray back here. And I'm going to get my trees in here just slightly damp. Oh, there's still too much paint on those. Those turn gray. All right, I have to do something to make those stand out. Let's give their branches a little bit of color. But while it's still wet, I'm going to put my color in while it's still wet. And the goal there is that if that color sort of fades a little bit into the background, that's going to give me a few softer edges in there. That will be good. Now I'm going to take some of this same color, I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to, with this brush here, I'm going to slightly fan it out. And that gives you this sort of broken line look. Because this tree is closer to us, I want that color in this close one to be a little bit stronger. So I'm going up and I'm making some of this little kind of marks in that upper edge where the smallest branches are. Now, I'm going to put in a few kind of trunk elements. And with this flat brush, I'm going to be kind of drawing with that, using the edge of it kind of like it's a knife. So if I tap it straight down, I can make a line like that. Oops, I'm missing that on the screen. If I tap it straight down, I can make a line like this. Right, so you can make those little lines. but that can feel kind of mechanical. If I only tap it with one of the corners of it, then those become more sort of varying lengths. So I'm going to put a few of these little kind of taps in here. And that is giving me sort of suggestion of branches. And I want to then connect those up to my trunk. Field out here. Got a little bit of blue-gray in this that I'm going to try to make my ground here look a little bit, it's not straight up brown. Bring some of that into this trunk of the tree. And I am, all right, it's feeling a little bit too harsh. I've got a few of these big spikes in here. This is feeling a little bit too close in value to the ground that is out here. So I'm going to make my ground a little bit darker. And give myself a little bit of suggestion of trunks back in here. Sometimes my demos work. I'm not as pleased with this one, but that's okay. Sometimes so if you ever kind of do a drawing and you say to yourself, I'm not as thrilled with the way that that one came out, you know, this, just make another drawing and another drawing and another drawing. Is there anything else I want to do here to try to, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit more color into these trees so that they stand out a little bit more. We'll see if that will work. Start with this one that is the closest to me. Oops, wrong way. Got a little bit better. That's okay. One last little thought about kind of drawing. So if my tree was a larger tree, One way I can do that with this brush is if I take the tip of this brush and I spin it, see what happens to the tip of it? It turns into this crazy spiky squirrely thing. So what I did is there's on this the Kuretake water brush, the flat water brush, there's a little cap at the end here that can come off. And so that means you can use the tip of this. Let me back up. So you can use the tip of this, you know, like a big, let's get more water in there, you know, to as a big mop head brush to do things. But you also can then take that big tip and turn it into a flat by putting this plastic piece over it. So you sort of see that there's sort of a general flatness to this thing here. I put that through the hole, making sure not to catch any little pieces on the outside. And I'm back to a flat. If I then take that same piece in here and I spin it with my fingers, watch it again, it goes pointy. That's kind of cool. So it's a sort of 3-in-1 brush. Sometimes if I will can take this sort of 3-in-1 brush, when it's in this sort of squirrel mode, if I paint with that, you can get all these sort of an indication of all of these little lines. So if as I go like this, you've got lots and lots of little lines. So what I'm going to do is kind of pull it back a little bit. I'm going to reduce the boldness of this little arch of this tree here, but still it's there so I can see it. But if I am kind of coming up here with this, that can also just suggest some of those little branches that are at the top of the tree. Then I'm going to take my other little brush and I'm going to kind of come back into here and give myself the smaller branches. Zoom down. To come down. That one is a little bit thick. One reason it's getting thick is, if you take a look at my brush for a second, notice that the tip of this is starting to kind of get wider. As I've been drawing, slowly water has been coming down through capillary action. So if you find that sometimes your fine tip of your water brush just gets a little bit too waterlogged, it will start to make thicker lines like that. So what I can do when I see that is I can just give it a wipe on my rag. That takes the water off of it and a lot of the color. I can recharge it from my palette. And then I'll often put it on a piece of paper and just spin the tip a little bit. And now it's back to a fine point where I can draw my little fine lines again. So I corrected that. Well, that's a little bit of tree drawing, winter tree drawing, for your winter adventures. Remember, if you want a tree to feel like it is light colored, the secret there is, as long as there is something that is dark that is behind it, then that tree starts to feel like it is light. Now, watch what I do as I kind of come in here towards the tree. I'm going to just get less paint on my brush. And then all of a sudden those are light branches because there's something dark adjacent to them. And that is some winter tree goodness. I hope that some of those strategies were useful to you. And also, I do want to point out that sometimes, like you notice when I was doing that final kind of watercolor demonstration on that kind of cluster of trees, I didn't really like the way that it came out as much. And that's going to happen a lot when we're drawing and painting. And it's to be expected. It's totally to be expected. And if when that happens, I get wrapped around the axle and I just like, right? That kind of physically about it makes me start to dread putting pencil or brush down on paper. So when things go not the way you planned, what you want to do is to intentionally look at it, hold that gently in your hands. Don't beat yourself up about it. Can you look at it sort of in a way that that helps you then make the next painting and the next painting and the next painting or the next drawing? One way of doing that is just by sort of like gently go like, oh, that one didn't work out as well, and just right next to it do another one and do another one, and just tell yourself these aren't drawings, these are studies. These are studies, and let's see if I can learn something about it. Once you have more drawings on the page, you're more insulated from that one that didn't work out as well. But when it's just there by itself, it feels like more of a big deal. And so just give it some neighbors, and then it kind of simmers down a little bit. Another thing we can do to learn from those is to look at the drawings and say to yourself, all right, what is there some part of this that does work, right? Is there a little part of this that does work? And is there a, and what specifically about that, not just kind of like, oh, I like that part, but go like, oh, actually, I kind of like this part, and here's why. If you can specifically articulate what went well, then it's easier to do that on the next drawing. And then what I'll do is I'll say, like, can I be more specific about what didn't feel right to me about it? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to that drawing that I felt a little bit about, and I'm going to take a look at it from those two perspectives. And that's going to help me learn from it and not beat myself up about it. So again, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to say, what specifically is something about that worked? Do that again. Is there a specific thing that I can notice that didn't work for me? Okay, less of that. So we're going to go back. We're going to look one more time. And here we are. And I'm going to come down on the page a little bit. This one. All right. So is there something that I like? I really like the feeling of these trees right back here. I like sort of this feeling that there's some kind of the ground and then it's kind of getting misty. I'm seeing some trunk coming down. They're rather simple, but I kind of like the feeling of those. Can I be specific about that? What is working? I think it may be contrast, that I'm going from sort of higher contrast to lower contrast here. I also like this part back here where there is just a little bit of shadow near the ground underneath these trees. I can feel that there's something kind of woodsy going on back here. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I've got sort of clumps of deciduous trees that are losing their leaves back there. That worked, just having that sort of simple shadow there, not even really so much drawing in trunks. Huh. That's something to remember. So that gets a little happy face. This part over here, I'm going to give myself a little happy face. This is not a very happy face, but that's okay. What would I do differently? I think that there is that this part in here, this dark part in here, feels a little bit too much like a claw that is on it. I don't really feel that branching out into these upper leaves here. They feel like they're kind of coming up here and ending, and I'm not really feeling a connection between this part here and that part that's out there. Maybe if I just sort of add in a few more little branches in that, here I'm just going to put them in with my pencil. That might sort of fuse those parts together, or it might not. But, you know, it could do no harm. I also think that this shape of this tree, everybody back here, they're sort of taller, but this one, there's only one here that's more pancaked. I don't think I'm really in love with the shape of this tree. So maybe if that tree kind of was a higher tree, that might work. So you can either get in there and try to change some of these things or not. You don't have to fix it, but you can kind of come away with a strategy of next time I might do something different. I might as well just kind of, just to play around with this, see what happens if this tree kind of gets. Yeah. All right. So, you know, I'm still not really pleased with that came out. I'm going to try to remember this nugget in here. I'm going to remember this nugget in here. And the next time I go out, this will be, my challenge will be, I want to play with some of these medium distance trees and see if I can get that to work better for me. That way I'm just kind of keeping it in my head, not as, you know, successes and failures, but I'm thinking of it in terms of learning. What am I, is there anything that I can take home from this that is going to be really useful for me to bring to the next drawing? Because it's not about this. Everything that I draw is just sort of learning for the next step. There we have a little bit of winter trees. And what I'd like us to do is we're going to just start with just kind of a group discussion about some of the things or ideas which we've been looking at here in this demonstration. And if you have comments, thoughts, ideas, or feedback, let me, where can I turn my face on here? I'm gonna turn my face on. There's my face. Would love to hear from you. And then if there's other sort of journal page sharing that people wanted to do, we can do that as well. So I'm going to pop over to the gallery if anybody wanted to share some of their tree sketches or notes, or thoughts about kind of what you do to kind of help you handle it when a drawing doesn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. Let's start with Mary. Mary, thank you so much for being with us, and I'm going to add you into the spotlight. Hi there.
Hi. I just want to say something about people's perception of their own artwork. Because I was looking at these trees and they were bringing up a whole lot of emotions for me, and they felt very misty and atmospheric. I think the issue is that tree with the contrast. I just need to shift it a little off center, and I think you've done a beautiful picture.
So you're thinking just sort of compositionally having that little sucker right there smack dab in the middle of the page.
Yeah. If your tendency is not to like it too much anyway, if it's right in the middle, I just think maybe you're really gonna
so just sort of kind of 3/4 and off to the side. Really, look how much better I look over here. Right?
Yeah.
Here,
I think it's really interesting how people perceive their own art, because my husband's the funniest person in the world, and I'll do something I think is really pretty ghastly, and he'll, oh my gosh, that's one of the best things you've ever done. And he doesn't hand out compliments all the time, so it's a funny thing. It's a funny thing.
It is. And so what we can do is it's okay to, that inner critic can either help us to the next step, but it has to be trained in order to how to do that. Because what most people's inner critics do is that kind of the inner critic starts with, that's not working, you should stop.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And you'll never be as good as the other people that are doing this online.
Exactly. And comparison.
And if they you didn't get in a show and they got in a show and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that tears us down.
Yes.
That tears us down. That voice, so destructive.
Yes.
But if I can get that critic voice to be retrained for kind of growth mindset of like, we're going to keep doing this together. And what I want to do is carry with me forward the things that worked and carried and leave behind more of. So if I bring more with me, more of the stuff that works and less of the stuff that isn't, as I'm heading down that trail, it's going to be getting better and better and better. But I really like your idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to run across the room here. I'm going to grab a roll of tape, and we're going to change the composition in that picture and see what it does.
Okay.
So let's see. There's my white tape. So I need your help on this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to hold up a piece of tape. And when you say, okay, put it down there, we'll see what that does to the composition. Hold on a second. This will be fun. Oh, so yeah, now that you mention it, just look at how much the center of interest is right smack down.
Yeah, and you've got a diagonal line that kind of reinforces it.
Yeah.
But I like that line. I think.
Do you think this side or this side? Which
no, the left. I like the left. And go, no, more out. More to the left.
More to the left.
More to the left. There you go. I think right about there. Right about there. So it's a small shift.
That's better.
I think it makes a lot of difference. Yeah, I think. I just really like that painting.
I like it better now. What an
It's
interesting.
the diagonal coming in from the corner is really leading your eye to that middle spot.
Yeah,
so
but also sometimes things that
lift
lead
that a little.
straight to a corner.
Yeah.
That sort of sometimes is a compositional. People say sort of compositionally not to do that. So let's just sort of take care of that and make that.
Soft. Can you soften it, or yeah, that'll help.
So make that kind of pointing a little bit less towards that.
Yeah.
Corner.
Yeah, that's better.
That's a lot better. That's a lot better. Little composition. Let's zoomed in on that. Look at what you did. Ha! Thanks, Mary. So, and what you also see here is sometimes, if you can get yourself do journaling with the buddy system, if there's somebody in the group who you find that you enjoy their comments and thoughts and ideas, reach out to them. You can just send them a little private message and say like, hey, you start talking, sometimes, you get fresh eyes on something that you do. And it really, it changes the way we think about other people can see something in what you're doing that you didn't. And so little tweak, that little tweak. So now folks, just watch this. I'm going to move this little piece of tape down for just a second and look at how much you're going to want me to put it back.
Yeah.
Right? Very so right on that. Yeah, the composition of the thing right in the center. Oh, it's better. Hey, thank you.
Oh, no problem. It's fun.
Let's see. So bounce back to this. Let's join Sandra and then Susan. Thank you both for being with us here today. Sandra, it's so good to see you, and I'd love to add you into our meeting. Oh, we need to allow you to unmute. I'm sorry about that. Hold on just a moment. Oh, you're ready. Okay.
I unmuted myself.
You're good. We hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Well, I was fooling around on the weekend with some watercolors, and this is very not me, but that's what I did.
Oh boy.
It's fun.
Oh, it's just got so much texture and movement and life to it. Isn't it wonderful the way their little tentacles curl up in those wonderful little spirals?
Yeah, and then you're deceived by the actual length of the leg or the tentacle. Yeah, I didn't think I was keen on octopus, but I had somewhere read a book or an article a few years ago about an aquarium that was taming some wild octopus, and I couldn't feature it myself. I thought I think I need to face this. I'm going to try to do a painting, so this is what I did.
Oh, I want to point out something else about this. Hold it back up for us. So everybody sort of notice on that sort of part of its mantle on the right, the sort of part that, below the eye to the right, at the texture in there, how there's a highlight zone in there with those little dark spots on it, right? So that texture, you really kind of get this sense that there's this kind of glistening spot on this. And that part, you look at it and you go like, wow, I mean, just check that texture out. At that point, it is so incredibly tempting to try to then put the same texture across the entire octopus, but don't. don't pause, wait. So Sandra has used sort of restraint here. So she's not putting in all of that that highlight in detail over the entire thing. So it brings our eye, our focus to that part. It gives the drawing a kind of a centerpiece, a focus point. If you have the same amount of detail everywhere, it flattens out your drawing. But this says, you know, look here, look right in here. And they notice just sort of where your eye is drawn. So your eye is drawn in there around that, around this little highlight point with sort of nice contrast below that point, and then to a few of those curling tentacles. You also have the, and notice how your eye is also drawn to the two bottom tentacles there, and less to those ones in the back. So you see what she's doing with detail and contrast? She's leading your eye to specific parts of this drawing. And that's what makes it, so it's got an area of focus, an area of attention. We're drawn to those tentacles at the bottom there and into that little face area. Again, if you put the same amount of detail and contrast through the whole thing, then the drawing has no center of interest. So here she's really guiding our eye, and it makes this drawing just so effective. There's actually some interesting research that was done recently. You know, people are looking at octopus intelligence and feeling. So they're looking at you know, to what degree do these animals feel? There's an article, you know, this is what I'm about to say. For some people here, they will be like, no duh, we knew this all along. But, you know, the research is kind of catching up. They found that octopi and decapods, also crabs and these sorts of things, they are sentient creatures. So sentient, again, means that they can feel, right? So they're really, that they can feel pain, they can feel these other sorts of things. And this is in the UK. This research is actually sort of prompting people to put in possible legislation for how do we treat animals. So for instance, in the United States, it's no longer legal to take the lobster and put it in a boiling pot, right? Take a live animal and drop it into boiling water. This research is sort of also sort of pushing people towards that. So they found out that these are sentient creatures. So again, sentient means that I can feel. A lot of confusion, of course, between sentient and sapient. Sapient meaning thinking. We don't know what their thoughts are and their thinking, but we have lots of sort of evidence from all sorts of other research that there's crazy things going on in these brains. Unrelated research is they tried tickling them to figure out how much stimulation gets them to laugh. Do you know how many tickles it takes to make an octopus laugh?
8.
10 tickles.
10.
There we go. 10 tickles. And there you have it. But folks, the research on that wasn't all a lead up to that joke. The research on sentience in octopus and decapods is something that is reaching out, something which we probably all knew, but that's kind of cool, and might have policy implications. Hey, Sandra, love that octopus. You said that, like, this is not the usual sort of thing you do. Was it fun?
It was, because it's just so not something I would do. Yeah. so I could just not worry too much about it.
That's really cool.
I think it turned out pretty well.
Have you seen the documentary, My Octopus Teacher?
I don't have a television.
I respect you so much more now. Oh, you rock. You rock. So if you ever come over,
okay,
we can see that documentary together. We'll set it up on the big screen. We also don't have a television. Sometimes we will watch movies through my computer. We'll project it on. We have a big sheet that we hang up, but there's no television in the house. But a beautiful a documentary about kind of octopus intelligence and relationship to environment and our relationship with other living things was beautiful.
And what about their ability to squeeze through any opening that is just a bit larger than their beak?
Yes, that's right. So yeah, for the limitation for a mouse is that if the mouse can get its head through something, it can get its skull through something, then it can go things. But the mouse has to make a hole at least as big as its skull. But the octopus doesn't have that problem. You know, you can sort of turn yourself to goo, through ooze and through that. That's really fun. Thank you so much, Sandra.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Let's join Susan. Oh, there's a lot. We're now kind of lighting up the switchboard here. This is going to be fun. Susan, thank you so much for being with us. I am going to add you in here. Hi there.
Hi. This was really great. Drawing the trees and everything was awesome. I love that. And also thank you for stopping and commenting when you feel like it wasn't working for you. And obviously we've had some discussion of that because I feel like that's so helpful. And when I teach, I really try to sort of demonstrate how it's okay to not have the answer that you wanted or not have the result that you wanted, and because people are scared in math and in art, people are scared to make mistakes because they're afraid it might explode or something. But so just I sort of had a comment in relation to that, which is regarding how sort of your question, how do we kind of learn to make that critic work for us instead of against us and anything. And I was thinking about, I started doing pottery a few years ago, and particularly wheel throwing, which I'd never done before, and I was excited to try. And that's hard. And I on the session recently, you were showing some bowls that you had by the person who had Parkinson's, and that was really, really inspiring to see how she could kind of make kind of make that work for her, turn what might have been a mistake into something that was special. But the thing that I think I felt like the pottery was really sort of character building for me in a way, because the thing about working with clay in general, but I think especially on the wheel, is that you cannot keep fiddling with it. If it's not coming out the way that you wanted and you keep fiddling with it, it's just going to collapse. Whatever problem, if it has a weak spot, you're going to make the weak spot worse. If it is not the right shape, if it's too wide, you can't make it smaller again. You can't keep fiddling with it. You have to move on. And so what I really learned from that is, because my tendency always is to spend an hour on this thing, and if I'm doing a drawing or a painting and it's not working, I keep erasing things and keep trying to fix things, keep trying to do it, and it just gets more and more frustrating. And with pottery, I found that there's a time limit on that, because if you keep fiddling with it, it collapses. And what you have to do is you have to move on. And I learned to, try something, and however good it came out, that was great. And if there are parts that didn't come out well, I had to think about, okay, what did I learn from this? And say, okay, the next one's going to be better. And scrape it off the wheel and put some more clay on and make the next one better. And you have to just keep going. And if you try to make 20 bowls in a day, which honestly I can't, I don't have the strength for that, I get too tired. Pushing that clay around is tiring. Only a few of them are going to come out really nice. And usually I find that there's a lot of aspects of it that I wish would do better. But I have to remind myself that I'm not trying to make a perfect bowl or a perfect whatever every single time. I am trying to improve my skills. And the next
say that again. That is so profound. That is huge.
Well, a friend of mine put it better. He said, sometimes you're trying to make a pot, and sometimes you're trying to make a potter. And I think you could do that. You could say sometimes you're trying to make a painting, and sometimes you're trying to make a painter, or anything. Yeah, like, I'm not trying to make a perfect thing. I am trying to improve my skills, and the next one will be better. And I really actually think that has actually, sort of like built character for me, because I have definitely found I've gone back to doing some watercoloring, which I've always tried to, I'm always very sort of self-critical, and I'm always like seeing all the things that are wrong with it that I don't like. And I did a couple of watercolor paintings as Christmas gifts this year that I don't have to show anymore, unfortunately, because I already gave them away. And I actually found that I was able to appreciate the things that I thought were really successful. And I was able to see the things in there that I wanted to do better, but I was actually able to see that as like, I'm really proud of this, and here are the things that I learned.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, here are all the things that I did wrong and this is embarrassing. It's like, I know that there are things I'd like to do better, and the next one will be better. And this one's still good. And so I feel like that's good. So in conclusion, everyone should take up pottery.
That is such a beautiful, beautiful thought. I love that. And so I've just put you down in my notebook here and quoted you on it. And so this line is now yours. Sometimes you're trying to make a painting, and sometimes you're trying to make a painter. What a powerful, powerful thought for all of us. I knew I joined this class for some reason today, and this may be it, Susan. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really exciting. We are now going to join Gabriella, and then the Schoen family will then join Ray Bonto. So Gabriella, it is really great to see you, and I'm going to add you into the spotlight here. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for doing the trees. I was the one who had requested help with it. And so this is my first attempt. A lot of lessons learned. So here is my thing.
Oh, yes.
I did not do the paintbrush thing here like in the beginning. So it became really dark, but then I was like, well, it's a night scene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I learned that I like this technique, but that I have to practice this one. So that's what I learned. And then this year I am working on getting out of my comfort zone. So no more flowers. So I have been taking all of your bird classes, and trees are another kryptonite. So this was this is my bird of the year.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me remove my screen here. Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
And I'm gonna do like
and also you did that in the 3/4 view angle. Check you out.
Trying.
Yes.
But, so what I want to do is do a whole study like throughout the year. So I just went and looked for stuff online, like fun facts or just facts about the bird. And I have a bird feeder outside of my dining room, and we have a lot of juncos there. So I'm excited to observe them.
Oh, that's really exciting. You have a commando in your room.
I do. Oh, they can see you.
No, I looked really creepy standing in the corner, and then I was like, maybe I just shouldn't. So then I like awkwardly went like that.
By the way, she loved your joke.
Yeah.
You like the tentacles?
Yeah, that was really funny.
That's cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love the your approach to pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The sweet spot for neuroplasticity is when we're not doing those things which I got this, right? You know, you can do more of those things that you do really well, but then your brain isn't growing. I always kind of look at my dad used to do these crossword puzzles, because somebody at some point told me, like, if you do crossword puzzles, you'll grow neural nets, right? And so, like, he was one of these people who loved words. He would get, like, he bought this at one point for his big gift for himself. He's so proud. He bought this dictionary set, a version of the OED that was literally this long, and the books were like these huge tomes. And you know, he studied Latin, he studied Greek. The crossword puzzles were not a challenge for him at all, and so there was actually no neural growth for these. But he's like I'm going to make my brain better. You know, it's like, no, when you get really good at those crossword puzzles, you know, it's time to take up Sudoku or something else, right? But if you're feeling more comfortable with the plants and the botanicals, and then you're pushing yourself outside of that comfort zone, where you that little feeling in your head of like, this is hard, right? That little struggle, that is the feeling of your brain growing. That's beautiful. And thank you so much. Next, we're going to be joining the Schoen family, and it's good to have you all with us. Hey there, welcome. Oh, there we go. So audio check, say hello, and I think we can hear you now.
Okay, I think you can hear us now.
Yes, we can, loud and clear. There we are. It's good to see all of you. How have you been?
Good. Do you want to introduce yourself?
My name's Isaac.
Isaac?
Your name? Isaac.
Isaac, it is really good to see you. I'm going to remove my spotlight so we can make your journal page larger on our screen.
Where did you go, Isaac, that you were excited about?
The Eagle Day Festival.
He went to the Eagle Day Festival, and do you want to tell him about it? No, you feel really shy. Anyways, he was very excited, and he came home and wanted to do the journal, and he wanted to show the club his
Isaac. This is wonderful, Isaac. Oh, you've got, you know, all the colors, and even I see that you're also putting in like the shadow on the head of the eagle. And what you put in there with the details of the eagle nest, that's really interesting. They make those just such kind of cluttery, jumbly nests, and you really show that. That's exactly how they look. And you also are using words. You have got numbers in here, the measurement of it. And I see that you're using the metric system. That is such a great way to measure. Isaac, would you like us to do a special class for you specifically about drawing bald eagles?
What do you think? Are you being, he was all excited, now he's really shy. That would be wonderful. Do you want to show him your other eagle real quick?
We would love to see your other eagle explorations.
And it looks like a turkey, but it's not.
He's not. That was our lesson today, huh? He's not as happy. He thinks it looks like a turkey.
Yes.
But what was something that you noticed about this eagle?
Its talons are very strong. And sometimes if they want to let go, they can't because their claws are stuck to the prey.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone could understand. He was saying he was impressed as they were talking about the talons can grip so hard on they're birds from a bird sanctuary that the bird handlers, they can't get them to let loose with their talons. So it's why was that important? Do you remember them talking about that? No,
I do not.
it was just because in nature and stuff, that's how they would react. They want to hold on to their prey. So,
And there's only 3 of these in the whole entire United States.
and there's only 3 of them in the whole United States. Why?
Because
Where do they live?
they mostly live in what's Australia.
They're eagles from Australia.
All right. So there are 3 of this kind of eagle that were brought from Australia
Yes.
in the United States.
Yeah, they're the wedge-tailed eagle. There's a bird sanctuary, rescue sanctuary by St. Louis, and they were doing some sort of exchange. And so these 3 eagles are the only ones they have in the United States at that.
Oh, what a privilege to be able to see those, Isaac. That's really exciting. That's wonderful, and I love the way you're just describing your experiences and your adventures in such rich ways. We are with words together with Mama's help there, and with your diagrams and pictures. That's a really wonderful way to learn. Thank you so much for sharing that. I saw that some people were also excited about the idea of an eagle class, and let's do that together. Sound good?
And those eagles have the most longest feathers of all birds.
Tail feathers.
Yes,
Yeah.
tail feathers.
And does the eagle class sound fun?
Mhm.
So say thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing this. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
It's really great to check in with all you guys. Oh, hi there. Hey there. Do you like to draw? Oh, we're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh,
Oh, there we are. We hear you.
go ahead. What did you say?
I painted some.
You painted some. You like painting too. Next time, let's give someone else a turn. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for sharing. It's really good to see you. Are you going to share with something with us next time?
My name is Leah.
Yeah, are you going to share next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe can do that. So we'll let some, I think Robanto's got something.
Okay.
Today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you, Leah. And we'll see you all again soon.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. We're now going to bounce over to London to see our friend Ray Bonto and Arpan. It's wonderful to see both of you.
Hi, Jack.
Hi. So, as I said, I don't have my watercolors, so I had to put my brush on the tip of the watercolor pencil and get the paint out of it.
Well, that's a really good way to do it. All right. So, got just some really neat studies here. I like the way, let's see that one on the bottom there. You really kind of get a sense that there are sort of larger branches, and then you're going out to finer and finer branches. And I like how there's just sort of an area of tone for those branches that are the furthest out on the tree. That really gives you a sense of sort of volume in that.
Thank you. And then I went to my park and saw this sap.
Oh,
How it's
interesting.
drying up.
And I mean, how interesting. I wonder if it came out dark and oxidized, or did it come out light and oxidized, or did it come out dark? I wonder what color the sap would be inside the tree.
It was like bloodstone,
So the
genuine,
bloodstone genuine?
but it was shiny, so that's why I drew it white.
Nice. Nice. It's great to have those be able to put those values in. I love using permanent white for highlights like that.
And it was a little reddish nearer to the source, which was around here. And another strange thing was that this bit was like a pin that stuck this whole bark to the tree, but the outer edges were peeling off of that bit of bark.
So you're saying that there was. Explain to me how that worked again. I didn't quite follow it.
This piece of dark bark was peeling off,
Mm-hmm.
and this bit seemed to stick more firmly, so it was like a pin.
Interesting. Now, I always think of sap as being clear, but I know like we have a plant out here on the West Coast, our poison oak, and its sap, when it gets in contact with air, turns black. It oxidizes. So there's a reaction with oxygen and it turns black. And I wonder about do you know what kind of plant that was? Interesting.
No.
It'll be interesting when summer comes again and there'll be leaves on the tree to see if we can figure out what kind of tree that was.
Oh yeah, now I come to think of it. There were leaves. It was a yew.
A yew tree. All right. Yeah. It's what archers used to make their bows out of. That's really cool. Yeah, I wonder if that is if the yew sap inside the tree is clear, or if does it come out and turn black? Were there any black marks like this on any other yew trees around?
There was I didn't check the others, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you drill a hole into one of these trees, that makes a YouTube.
That's a good one.
Try it next time.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that observation. You know, it's neat. You know, people who don't nature journal, they don't know how to get themselves excited and curious about all the sort of the little discoveries that are around us all the time. But you've trained yourself how to slow down and pay attention to the little details that are around us. And you can uncover, you know, the mysteries that are in sap on a tree. Lots of other people don't know how to slow down and pay that kind of attention. And they don't really realize that there's something really cool going on here. That takes training. Well done. Really well done.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Let's see. Is there anybody else that wanted to share something with us? If so, you can either wave at your screen or here we go. And hi there.
Hi, this is Jan. And on the news over the last week, there was the most wonderful thing about fossils from Australia. And I've been working on trying to draw this. And this is just a sample of one of them. this is in New South Wales, and it's called McGrath Flats. And this particular goethite, these animals stuck in there, and they're absolutely incredible. And the colors are amazing. And there are spiders. And to me, this looks like a beetle. You know, I've just seen the pictures. And so what I've been playing with is just trying to figure out what I want to do, because there are all sorts of colors where they've had different minerals embedded, and the guts may look one way and something else is the other. So this is as far as I've gotten so far of trying to figure out, but I just love these. And please, everybody, look up these McGrath Flats fossils.
How do you spell McGrath Flats?
I think it's, let's see, McGrath Flats. And it's just amazing. It's one of those wonderful farmers moving boulders thing that got discovered. And, you know, I think it probably got discovered a few years ago, but they've just really come public with all these amazing things. Anyway, so I'm very excited about it.
And it just got tons of really perfectly preserved insects and arthropods.
Just amazing. They're really, second. Excuse me. They're really hoping to get a bird. They think that they're going to find more things because they've really just started with this.
What time period are they looking at?
I believe 11 million to 16 million years ago. I don't remember lots of facts and figures, but that one I'm pretty sure stuck in my head, right?
So this isn't something just like, you know, amber that is getting little insects caught in it. We could get all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. So you just all may want to look at them. They're beautiful. They're just incredible.
Wow. Hey, thank you so much for putting me onto that. I will go, you've given me how to geek out for the, newly discovered. Oh, whoa. Yeah, folks, cool. Jan's right. You got to go check this crazy stuff out. Avea just dropped us a link. This will be fun. Thank you so much. That's really, really cool. I mean, this planet is just so surprising and wondrous and beautiful. You know, we are, who was it who said that we are not starved for wonders, but of wonder, right? And, you know, if we can really learn how to wonder widely, you know, that to the point where you see this sort of tree sap coming out of a tree nearby, and it slows you down, and you take another look and another look and another look, and you start to realize, whoa, there's something going on here. Then when you apply that to, you know, an even more surprising phenomenon, your brain is even more, you've prepared your mind as this fertile soil for discoveries and thinking to take. What was that, Chesterton? No, thank you. You've prepared your mind like this fertile soil that, you know, the seeds of your discoveries can take root in and grow. And then you're going to water those with deliberate attention and deliberate curiosity, and beautiful things can happen. Thank you all for being with us today. In just a moment, we're going to be turning off the recording. Before we do, I just wanted to thank everybody for being here, and wanted to encourage people just to get out, bring your journal, and let's use Ray Bonto's example as a project for this week. And what I'm going to encourage people to do is to go out and find a mini wonder that most people would probably just walk on by, But when you start to kind of slow down and pay closer and closer attention, that this little mystery turns into something more. See if you can follow a mystery to where that happens. And it's not so much the wonder that you're looking at, it's how you wonder about the wonder. And let's play with that idea. And please, if you feel comfortable doing so, you can share that on our Nature Journal Club Facebook page. We would love to see that there. Or we can share that here in future meetings together. In the meantime, be safe, be kind. Let's play outside and make the most of this beautiful, amazing experience that we have to be a sapient creature on this wondrous, wondrous planet. Let's work together to take care of each other and this earth. Thank you for being here, everybody.